Welcome to another episode of the Suited to Serve podcast. I'm your host, Keon. I'm excited to be here with you today. I have a special guest in the building. She is the proud owner of Let Me Cater to You, Uptown's Chicken and Waffles, as well as Local Escapes, LLC. She has over 16 years of business success. She has competed on the Food Network's show, Chop, as well as Cutthroat Kitchen. And most recently, she is a champion winner on Supermarket Stakeout television show competition. How you doing, Chef Judy?
I am doing amazing. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for being here. We appreciate you. This is something that I thought of last year. You were one of the people that I had on my list, and I'm like, I gotta get Chef Judy here. So
I don't know what took you so long.
Listen, God's timing. We here.
That's it.
So listen, I was reading your bio. I didn't realize you were born in Chicago.
Yes, born and raised.
Yeah. What was that like? Talk to us about that.
Rough.
Yeah.
I grew up on the streets. Chicago is just inner city, and it gets crazy.
Yeah.
I actually moved away at 17 years old.
Okay.
That's when I went to the Army.
Okay.
I knew as a kid, I got to get up out of here.
You knew this wasn't for me.
Listen. Life got to get better than this. That's, and now I can go back and I can appreciate, all the things that I went through there. But yeah, I went to the Army, and goodness gracious, that was one of the best decisions.
Good. Well, before we get to the Army, I wanna learn a bit about you growing up.
Wow.
Talk to us about your childhood. Did you have any siblings?
So I actually have 2 brothers and 2 sisters.
Okay.
I was the oldest that lived in the home.
Gotcha.
And my mom was alcoholic. She was on drugs during my earlier years. And so I kind of had to be the person to step up. My dad was working a lot. And so it was left up to me to do hair, and I couldn't even do hair good,
Yeah.
but I had to do what I had to do, right?
Yeah.
So I took care of my siblings. I started cooking for them and all the things. And it was rough. It was rough. And I'll say this. It turned me into the woman I am now,
Sure.
and so I take nothing away from it, and but I don't have the story that most people have. Oh, to be a kid again. I don't want to be a kid again. I didn't have the best childhood.
Right.
But everything works out the way it's supposed to, and so for that I am forever thankful.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the beauty and the struggle, that gets us here.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about who influenced you in the kitchen. Like, who did you look up to? Who helped you? Who helped you put it all together?
I'm gonna tell you, nobody.
Really?
Like, my grandmother, they say, was a good cook, but I wasn't in the kitchen with her. So I don't have the story of I was there in the kitchen with grandmama and she taught me how to, make biscuits and things like that. I don't have that story, but I know that she was a good cook. And I really got in the kitchen because I had to, I was cooking at 9 years old, but it was out of necessity, how some folks is like, oh, I just like this. No, we needed to eat, so I had to learn how to make some fried chicken as a kid in order to survive, And so I really didn't have a mentor. I didn't even know that you could become a chef. I didn't know that, like you could dream big and be able to make it out of the city and go on to live a good life, There was nobody I didn't have a role model to show me those things.
Sure, I understand. And you having to go through that without somebody in the kitchen to actually show you probably sharpened you even more, because I feel like you learn better when you teach yourself.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Because you retain it and you can kind of tweak it from there. You seem to have kind of gravitated towards cooking at a young age out of necessity. Was there ever anything in your life that you wanted to pursue? Did you know at a young age cooking was for you? Because as you said, you went into the military at 17.
You know what? I knew cooking was for me.
Really?
I just didn't know how far I could go with it. I knew I wanted to cook. I knew I was a good cook. I'm talking as a teenager, I was making full meals, and this was before, it was popular to sell plates. Otherwise, I'd have been doing that a long time ago, but I was actually cooking, and my friends are eating my food, and they're like, oh, it's good. And it's not that I needed that validation, but for me, as a young person, it's like, man, this is something I'm good at. I know we didn't have any money, so I'm like, I want to go to the military. So as a teenager, I told my parents, hey, I'm gonna go to the Army after I graduate high school. Right. So I knew that, but then once I did some research, I realized that they had a culinary program.
I was gonna ask you about that.
That's right. Yeah. Why wouldn't I do something that I know I'm good at, right? You know what I'm saying? You pursue the things you're good at and go make some money off of it. And so I decided, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and do it, you know? And that's what made me go ahead, and after I graduated, go to the Army and go in as a cook. That's all I knew, and I worked it out from there.
How long were you in the military?
6 years.
6 years.
Yeah.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Was that difficult for you, like transitioning from someone who taught herself how to cook? Now you're in the military. I'm sure there's like a certain structure in place for every single thing that takes place in that kitchen. Was that a challenge for you early on?
You know what? It wasn't a challenge for me. The biggest challenge was really me staying awake. Like, I would be falling asleep because I'd be tired. Like, you know what I'm saying? So that was my biggest challenge. But because I was interested in it, I wanted to be the best. And so it wasn't a challenge. I knew, hey, if I pay attention and I do what I'm supposed to do, they'll stay off my back. And I can learn and I can grow. And I knew that's what I wanted. You know, I knew that as a kid, I needed a better life. I desired, you know, I can remember one time that I was about, I'm going to say I was 9 years old, literally. I came home from school one day, I was being bullied, like real bad. I was like the dirty kid. We didn't have money.
Really?
It was bad. And so, I went home one day and I remember going in the room and I'm crying, you know, the ugly cry, just crying. And I'm like, you know, at 9 years old, I promised myself my kids will never go through what I'm going through right now. I literally, and so to have even that level of thinking as a child to know this ain't right. Something about this is off. It's wrong. I don't want no parts of it as an adult. And that was really my motivation for wanting to be better at everything that I put my hands to. It was like, you know, I can't go back to broke. I came from that. I need to break this spirit of poverty off of like my family, my life. You know, I hated it. I hated not being a kid that, you know, can afford a pair of shoes, like name brand shoes. You know, now we had shoes, but they just weren't name brand. I didn't get no Nikes and all of that till I got my first pair of Nikes at 11 years old. And they were hand-me-downs. They were some big old, they was too big.
I come from that
they was blue. And I remember they had a white check, you know, and they had a bubblegum sole. And they were an older shoe, but I was thankful it was Nike. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know where you from, but where I grew up, we had Payless. And so there was these shoes called XJ900s. You know, now it sounds good today when I say XJ900, but these was bubble. I'm talking raggedy. You know, no. So my thing was, you know, do better so that you can do better. You know, and that was so important to me even as a young person, like, life gotta get better than this. You know, that's been my motivation since I was 9. So you talking about now at 17 going in, and I'm the youngest. I'm the youngest soldier. I literally 2 months after I graduated high school, I'm going into basic training with all these old heads. Those old heads, you know, you got 30 something. Some of these people got kids my age, you know. So my thing was, well, I want to be good, you know. So that means I'm gonna have to roll with the punches. So whatever that meant. And I'm telling you, I've been riding it ever since.
No, you definitely have. It seems like you learned a lot in the military as well during your time there.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
Did?
I did. But you know what? I actually learned, you know, the things that I wish a lot of people took in these days, like being on time. You know what I'm saying? That's a big one. You know what I'm saying? Like that's so small, but it's huge to me. You know, you have to be on time. Now everybody's lackadaisical. They can, you know, come and go. They do what they want to do. Everybody's just, you know, so there's no structure. I appreciated structure because that was one of the keys to the foundation of, you know, starting my own business and all of that. Just really having the structure and those early things that you need to learn in order to be successful in life, not just in business, but in life. You know,
Right.
you should want to be a good boyfriend. You should want to be a good husband. You should want to be a good girlfriend, a good wife. You know, you should want to be a good sister. You know, someone, a confidant, someone people can, you know, lean on, things like that. You know, and I feel
Right.
like those things are missing in today's society. But those are things that I learned, you know, going into the military.
Right. Understood. As you were approaching, you know, I guess that 5th or 6th year where you got, you know, transitioning out of the military, was your plan to build a business? Was your plan to be an entrepreneur? What were you going to transition into?
My plan was to become an entrepreneur.
Gotcha.
My dad was an entrepreneur for most of my life. He just never really achieved the level of success that I felt like he wanted to, or he desired, or that he should have. You know, and when I say should have, in my eyes, my dad could do no wrong. You know, he was good, he was a hard worker, you know, he was a good dad. I saw him be a good friend, you know, and it's just like he never quite, you know, made it there because we still struggled. So, you know, it was like the struggling entrepreneur. And I was like, that's cool, but I'm gonna take it to a whole nother level. You know, and again, these are conversations I'm having with myself as a young person, you know. So at 20, I'm already coming up with the game plan for entrepreneurship. You know, I'm already thinking, what can I do, you know, to hustle legally, make some money, and then still live a good life, you know, and that's what I did.
So was Let Me Cater to You, was that your first business coming out of the military?
No, I've had, you know what, I kid you not, I had about 15 businesses.
Okay.
I am what you call a serial entrepreneur. I mean, like, you know what I'm saying? Most of them were successful and some weren't. But the ones that were not, they also, when I fell, I didn't fall back. I fell forward. You know what I'm saying? And so it's just kind of like, okay, everybody failed at something. So, you know, there's no shame in my story. There's no shame in things that I've been through, because it all like brought me to this point of where we are today, right? And so I actually started a couple businesses. One of my first businesses, I had an in-home daycare. You know, I was 20 going into 21 years old. I got off active duty. I decided I'm gonna have my own baby because, you know, I'm married, I'm doing things the right way, you know, and I had this in-home daycare where I had 5 children in my home. And I'm talking about, I'm 21 at this point, but I know how to cook, so I can make the kids breakfast, lunch, a snack, and dinner. You know, I come from a city life, so I'm already grown, you know. So, you know, at 21, you're grown, but when you come from, you know, experiences, then you really got it. Like, you know what I'm saying? There are things that you just kind of, you're keen to, you pick up on. And so that was my very first business. And from there were times I went back to work for someone else. And then I went into entrepreneurship again. I opened a restaurant. I closed the restaurant. I opened another one. I went back to work for somebody else. You know what I'm saying? And so I never negate to tell that part of the story, because what people will do is they'll see your now. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Not understanding that you had to go through some things too. You know, I don't ever want anyone to feel like, you know,
it was an easy road.
It was easy. It wasn't easy.
Exactly.
You know, did a lot. But I actually moved here from Tampa, Florida.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Moved here from Tampa, Florida. I was fresh off of separation, you know, and I wasn't even stationed here. That's the crazy part.
I was gonna ask you that.
You know what?
Did the military bring you to Fayetteville?
It's so
I was gonna ask you
crazy.
that.
So my sisters, both of my sisters were military as well, and they both retired. So I was the only one that didn't retire. I said, I'm gonna take the entrepreneurship route, and it's all good. It worked, right?
Sure.
But so I decided to come here because my sister was stationed here. Well, you know how the military do. A few years after being here, she went and moved away. Well, by this time, I have stuck my toe into entrepreneurship. I got some friends here that I done, you know, exactly. The community really took me in when I had no family here. And so that's one reason why, and we'll talk about this later, but that's one reason I'm always going to give back to Fayetteville, because Fayetteville was there for me. I'm talking literally when I had nobody else, you know. And so so I moved here, and I was working at Fayetteville State for Aramark. So I was a catering chef, and one of the things that I love to share is that I put my application in before I even moved here.
Okay.
So I'm talking, it was probably 5 months before. So I done moved here, whatever. I get a phone call. I said, hi. I try to act like I have some sense when I'm answering the phone, you know.
As you should.
And
yeah.
So it was the director, and they said, hey, we got your resume. We want to get you in for an interview. I'm like, okay, great, I'll be there. I was super nervous because they actually asked for, they wanted someone with 16 years of experience in food service. They wanted someone and or a bachelor's degree. Here's the kicker. I didn't have neither one of them.
Right.
I'm talking about, like, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I'm nervous because I'm like, well, how you going to go work at a school and you ain't even got a degree? You know what I'm saying? That's the power of, like, how God will do things. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And like, for me, I really walk in this favor, like, heavy. And so I'm like, I'm going to go, the interview. I've always been good at interviewing, right. And so I'm going to do this interview. And if they ask about school, we just going to have to work it out. Right. They didn't ask, and I ain't mention it either. Because why would I? Be a fool to think I'm going to bring it up. Yeah. And so I interviewed well. And then they said, well, we want you to cook for the chancellor of, the school, and then like 5 vice chancellors. I'm nervous now. I'm like, oh,
big wigs.
I'm the big wigs, like
decision makers.
All the decision makers,
Yeah.
But you know what I did? Even in that, I found out a little bit about the chancellor at the time. She was from, it was a female.
Okay.
Black female. Mm-hmm. She was from Baltimore. Well, because I was stationed in Maryland, I spent some time in Baltimore. So what I did, you better know I made some crab cakes. I made some of the best crab cakes. Let me tell you something. When you're in tune and you're in alignment, like nothing else even matters. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make some crab cakes. I'm gonna make, this, that, and then I'm gonna do something fancy, like, so I wanted to show out a little bit. Right. So I said, what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna take one of those little fancy desserts that you can light on fire, like torch it in. Okay. You know what I'm saying? A bananas Foster split. I never forget. Okay. That was probably the last time I even made this dessert. Like, kid you not. I don't even know that I have ever made it before. Don't know if I ever made it before. I did some research. I said, oh, where was this originated? Because I told you I didn't have a degree, right? Okay. So now I got to do my research because, you know what I'm saying? Exactly. I got to know what I'm talking about. I realized that this particular dessert, it was founded in New Orleans at this restaurant called Brennan's, and I found out about the chef and things like that, right? So I do this, and everybody's like, oh my goodness, that was cool, this, that, or the other. So while I'm doing something else over here, I overhear a conversation. Okay. And they said, so where was this originated? And they said, I don't know. You know what I said?
Oh, you ran over there.
Brennan's in New Orleans. Like, you know what I'm saying?
That was your time to shine.
It was. Yeah. And that really did. And I mean, that had them like, oh, she got the job. I kid you not. I got the job because awesome. I went in there. I was confident enough, and I used my resources and my research. You know what I'm saying? And so again, that's just one of those small stories that's just kind of like, I have so many stories, but that I can say it catapulted me to a whole nother level. I had never had a job with benefits, or I hadn't had a job where I was salaried, like one of them, whether you come to work or not, you're gonna get a little money. Right. And so I was excited about that. I couldn't blow that cut. So and that was 18 years ago, and here we are. Now it's been 16 years for Let Me Cater to You. I stayed there, did all I could do. 2 years later, it was time for me to go ahead and go on back out there, start my own business again. Because you know when it's time. Sometimes you may not know exactly the moment, but when you start getting that feeling,
exactly, your discernment start letting you know.
Absolutely, it's like some of the things start irritating you that don't even usually bother you. I had 60-something employees with 60-something issues. They dog sick, so they can't come to work. The kids got this going on. You know what I'm saying?
Management is tough.
Management is super tough. It really is,
Yeah.
And so
and stressful.
It was for me. So that's why I'm like, now wait a minute, I'm going through the paperwork one day. I paid them a lot of money. I ain't hating, but I made them a lot of money. If I make myself a quarter of this, I better make myself.
Yeah.
What are we doing here?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It was a no-brainer. You know, I already knew at heart I was an entrepreneur. You know, I just needed to learn a little bit more. I needed a little bit of the training that they had to give. I needed, you know, that I can get on the job.
Needed to be sharpened a bit.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely
you know,
not.
Folks feel like, oh, they can just jump into entrepreneurship and everything is just going, you know, no, you get you some training. And sometimes you want to get it on somebody else's dollar.
Yeah.
Let them send you to these classes. Let them send you to the training so that you can, you know, like you said, get sharpened. Like, you know, nothing wrong with that.
You always got to stay coachable during the journey.
Absolutely.
Because there's always somebody or something that can teach you, you know, on this path of entrepreneurship. So I understand for sure. So one thing, as I was thinking and you know, about this conversation that I wanted to have with you, and I was kind of reflecting over my experiences around you, you know, there's something that the elite entrepreneurs in our city have in common. You, Marcus Dawes, Corinne Keys, Rob Barber, like you guys all have this one thing in common that I kind of put together. Y'all will come touch the people. And what I mean by that is, I observed you in your restaurant, you know, come from out back, and you would just walk the room and just be talking to people, talking to the people sitting down. Why is that important for you?
Man, that's a good question. That's super important because people need to know you care. Like, I care more than just about your dollar. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not here just to, you know, get rich off of people. I want you to know that I care. I want you to know that I care for things that might concern you. You know, there are customers that may have had, you know, a bad day. I'll never forget one day I came from out back and, you know, I'm touching tables, as we call it. You know, hey, how are things going? And, you know, hey, how you doing today? And I'll never forget this woman said, my mama just died and I just wanted to come give me something good to eat.
Oh, man.
Man.
That's
but
heavy.
You know what that did, though? I sat there, I talked to her. I said, do you mind if I pray for you? I prayed for this woman, and she never forgot that. I mean,
That's awesome.
That was one of those things that she could say, that woman didn't know me, but she was there for me in a moment where, you know what I'm saying? Because at this point, you know, she's crying and she's, you know what I'm saying? And I didn't know what that felt like at the time to lose a mother. But when I lost my mother, I needed somebody to be there for me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I think so, you know, life's experiences kind of, you know, it kind of make me want to be a part of people's life, right? It makes me want to make sure you're good. It makes me want to be there in whatever way I can, whether that's just a smile. Sometimes you know, we take for granted what a simple hug can just do for a person. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? What a simple how are you, and if they're not doing well, a listening ear. You know what I'm saying? That means a lot. That means a lot to people, you know? And I know it means a lot for me. So, you know, for me to be able to connect with people and them to be able to see that, man, she all right. You know, I always want to remain humble. And that's another reason I do it. I don't ever want someone to feel like I'm just untouchable, I'm unreachable, you know. Even when I do go to higher heights and deeper depths, like, you know, I want to be able to see my people and what's going on, like, you know what I'm saying? That's my personality. Like, I love people. Like, I'm one of those, I'm a people's people, you know. So I want to be in the midst of everything going on. Like, you know, I'm also one of those people, because I come from the streets, I can hang out with the thugs and I can be comfortable, and I can hang out with the millionaires and be just as comfortable. And that's one of the things I love about my personality. I can code switch, I can flip, I can, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And still, you know, I'm still gonna be myself. I'm still gonna make you smile. I'm still gonna make you laugh. We might cut up a little bit, and when it comes time to business, it's time for business.
It's time for business. I think with your customers, with you touching your customers like you do, I think it just makes you, like you said, makes you feel so relatable. And people they remember that experience, and, you know, every time they think about going somewhere to get something to eat, you know, you're going to be at the forefront of their mind. But I think it just makes you real personable to people. I was impressed by that when I saw it, you know, because you came over to my table, spoke to me and my son. I was like, dang, you normally don't get that, you know, when you go out to a lot of the major restaurants. So I felt like that was that Chick-fil-A type service set you apart.
And that's one of those things that I want to remain doing. You know, now I do travel a lot, but when I am at work, I want to be able to, you know, talk to the people because, you know, our patrons are who keep us in business. You know what I'm saying? If without the customers, you know, we can't survive. So I want them to know I appreciate you. You know, I don't know who else tell you and who don't, but I want you to know I appreciate you. You're gonna leave knowing Chef Judy, you know, so if somebody ever said, you know, now she was rude, she was mean, everybody gonna know that's a story, you know, like no, she good people. She don't play them games. And you know, and so again, that's just important to me, making sure I treat people right. Got
you. As it should be to all entrepreneurs, to be honest. Let me ask you, the inspiration behind Uptown's Chicken and Waffles, where did that come from? Like, where did the vision for that happen?
Let me tell you, crazy story. So I already had 2 restaurants. So I had Let Me Cater to You, and they were doing well. And one of my best friends called, and you know, we're talking on the phone, and he says, we should open a restaurant. Like I don't already have 2 restaurants. And so, you know, because I told you I'm one of those serial entrepreneurs, so I'm just as crazy. So what kind of restaurant? Like, you know, and he said, a chicken and waffle restaurant. I said, I like it. I like the sound of it because we would get in the car. Sometimes we would drive an hour and a half away to get chicken and waffles, just because, you know what I'm saying. It was a cool concept. It was trendy. And so I would already do chicken and waffles at Let Me Cater to You every now and then as a special. So I'm like, I know how to do this. That's too easy. So I said, tell me what you're thinking. He said, well, you know, I was thinking like maybe 25 people, you know, like a little place where I said, nah, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. Nah, you know, I'm not playing them games.
So that's too small.
You know, that's thinking too small. You know, and your average entrepreneur, they probably would feel like, well, yeah, take it easy. No, if I'm gonna go, I'm going all the way.
Plus, you're already in it, so you understand.
Exactly. So I do understand, but I hadn't been in it to this magnitude. Sure. I'll be honest. You know. And so what happened was he's really good with graphics and marketing and all the things that I lacked. I'm good with the food, the back of the house things, we're both good with service. And so it was just kind of like almost a match made in heaven, right? So we decided this is what we're going to do. We're going to do a pop-up New Year's Eve. We just going to do it and see how well we go over. Man, they wore us out. Wore us out.
Was it at the current location?
It was at our location when we were at Striker Golf Course.
Oh, that's right, the golf course. Right, that's right. I forgot about that.
So we decided that we would open after church. You know how services after New Year's. We were there at 5 o'clock in the morning. I mean, slinging chicken and waffles. It was bananas. It was bananas. I was wore out. I said, I don't know if I want to do this. But we lived to fight another day. And since we've been rocking and rolling in Uptown's Chicken and Waffles, I mean, it's been 6 years now. And 5 years at our current location. And what's crazy about that is...
That's awesome.
Thank you so much. 2 days after we opened at the Owen Drive location is when restaurants had to shut down due to COVID.
Oh, wow.
And so everybody shut down. Well, when we heard the rumors that, you know, restaurants might have to close down, they talk about closing everything down. We said, we done already put our money into this thing. Right. We done come too far. We can't close down. Right. So we ordered a whole bunch of to-go boxes. We dumped money into marketing, like, Facebook to run ads and reach people that was beyond even our scope. You know, most people would have taken that and they would have fallen back. Like, let's just see what's going to happen. No. But I'm a go-getter. You know what I'm saying? And so that's where that childhood, thing gets to stirring up. Remember, you can't go back. Right. So we did that. And when I tell you, that was actually a blessing for us because, we were able to go forward and really make money at a time where a lot of people, were closing doors, And so for that, I'm just so grateful and thankful because I know it could have went another way, And it was at that moment that I also had to lean on the community. Hey, y'all gotta come eat, because if y'all don't come eat, we ain't got no business. Right. You know what I'm saying? We won't survive, And that's one of those things where we need each other. And oftentimes, people will take that for granted. I don't ever take it for granted. And even with my business partner for the Uptown's Chicken and Waffles entity, I don't take, his knowledge and friendship and partnership for granted, because iron sharpens iron, right?
For sure.
And so again, the things that I'm weak at, he's strong. The things that he's strong at, I may be a little weak. And the things that we don't know, we figure it out together, and we're missing that in our communities. You know what I'm saying?
And I think that's also great, like, that you guys have been able to maintain y'all friendship and a business relationship, for all this time, because you see and hear so many stories about, how people fall out after they try to, start a business together. So how have you guys been able to keep those things separate?
You know what? We make the decision. Like, we in this thing. You know how, like, some people when they get ready to get married, we almost made vows.
Yeah. No, Rob said that. Rob said that. He was like, when you starting a business with somebody, it's real close to a marriage type situation.
It's so close. I was just talking about that today. It's very extremely close, right? Because you have to be able to trust them. Right. You have to be able to lean on them. You have to be able to glean from them. Again, the things that that they can do that you're like, show me what you just did there, and vice versa. And so, we really got it right. And so for that, I'm thankful. And I try to get everybody to see that, you need somebody. You know what I'm saying? Oftentimes, we'll just, I don't need nobody, I got this, da da da. I've made more money with him than I ever have with anybody else in my whole life, including the couple husbands I had. But we'll talk about that another show. We'll talk about that another show.
Nah, that's awesome.
Yeah, awesome. And so it's just, that
says a lot about y'all too.
Yeah, that's my people. I'm talking like we're close, like brother and sister,
That's awesome.
But it's that trust factor.
Yeah.
And you gotta be able to trust people. That's the only way you really gonna grow. That we try to hold on to stuff and try to gatekeep it. No, you can't. You know what I'm saying? You can't grow like that. You can't grow like that. The more you let go, the more you open your hand and receive more blessings. Right. So yeah, that's my dog.
No, I love that. I love that. So I know on your journey through life, you've met a lot of people. You've been on a bunch of shows, made a lot of connections over the years. But talk to me about how special it was to sit with Mark Zuckerberg.
Let me tell you something. So I've always been a Facebook junkie, if you will, right? So, at least for the last 14, 15 years that it's been like real popular. I got a phone call and they said we're having a special guest coming in, and they didn't tell me the first conversation. They just wanted me to sign, kind of like an NDA, you know what I'm saying? Don't talk about it, that type of thing. Then they messed around and told me it's Mark Zuckerberg. Nice. I was like, are you kidding me?
But I don't mean to cut you off, but there's some things that you say that I feel like we can't just skim past. Because the person you got that phone call with that's a major phone call. Your relationship with that person, was this a friend? Was this a business acquaintance? Like, who made this call to you? Because that's major.
Let me tell you, it's crazy because it was actually someone who mentioned my name in a room that I wasn't in.
You just posted something like that the other day.
Listen, one of my prayers during that time was, put me on the minds of decision makers. So, if you're in position to make the decision and you don't even know me, but something about you drew you to me to say, hey, or they, they said, whoever the they is, hey, they said, this is the place you want to go to when you get to Fort Bragg.
That's big.
You know what I'm saying? That's major.
That's big.
All he asked for, he wanted to eat at like a local type of place. He didn't say black owned. He didn't say, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But just a local or a small business. Right. well, I fit in that category.
Absolutely.
And so, what better place
Absolutely.
than to come and dine with Chef Judy?
For sure.
So that was such a major honor at that time because, you know, I was big into Facebook, and this was before Facebook was making me money, because, you know, now Mark be kicking out the duckies.
Was that a part of the conversation? Did he kind of use some gems on that?
No, because this was way before people were getting paid for it. But the more I just, you know, like kept in tune, it's like when I hear something, I jump on it. Same way I told you about getting them to-go boxes and pushing forward. Like if I hear something and I know that it's not, you know, trash, or I feel like this is a good move, I'm going to see what it is, especially if it's going to propel me for greater, if it's going to make me some money. And so that's what Facebook has done over this last couple of years. You know what I'm saying? It's like, true, you go out here, you mess around and go viral, you can get you a couple stacks. Like, you know.
Just for posting.
Just from posting on social media.
Right.
That's crazy, and that's one of the reasons I love it. That's why I post every day.
Yeah.
That's my extra money.
Get back to the story though, Mark.
But no, so they tell me, you know, he's coming, you know, don't tell anyone, like we're still gonna open for business, but it's just whoever's gonna be there. So he came on in, he dined with us, he brought some other folks with him, and that was so major. That was just kind of like, what? You know, I had the news stations coming and everything. I was like, I must be somebody. I'm a big deal now.
Absolutely.
I mean, I done made it in Fayetteville now.
Listen, legend status.
But yeah, so that was pretty dope. That was dope. And one of the other ones that I have to say, and I don't know if you're a fan or not, because I know it can be controversial, but J. Cole.
Oh yeah.
When I tell you, I competed on Chopped first.
Okay.
So this is the same year. I competed on Chopped. I didn't win. You know, I wasn't bummed. I was just kind of like, okay, you know, I was just glad to be able to go. They still took me, you know, to New York. They flew me to New York, and then they put me up in a hotel, gave me some good to eat.
A great experience.
It was a great experience. So coming off of that loss, a couple months later, I get a phone call again. Somebody who don't know me.
Wow.
They said, "Hey, we saw your website on da da da." This is Source. I'm sorry. It was one of the magazines. We're gonna. We need you to cater for J. Cole. I said, cater what? They said, his Power Trip video. I'm your girl.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He didn't ask for nothing for free. You know, because, you know, sometimes celebrities will feel like, you know, I made it, like, go ahead and do it, and then whatever.
Especially when they're from that town.
Exactly.
Right.
It wasn't like that. And I made some good money off of that, because you're talking breakfast, lunch, dinner, you're talking the snacks, you're talking the rider service, the whole night. All day. 2 days.
2 days.
Oh, and nice. So, you know, again, this is somebody who saw me online. You know what I'm saying? So the power of online, I'm telling you, you have a far reach. These people were out of, I think, New York or something, you know? And then the following year, it was again, hey, J. Cole is doing a video, you know, want you to do, you know, the food and this, that, the other. And that was when we shot at his house. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Wow.
So it's like, we on Forest Drive, we in J. Cole crib. Like, it was an amazing experience. But again, when you get a chance to do something you love and make a little bit of money off of it, man, that's the life. That's the life I strive for. Like, that's the life I work so hard for, and I you know, make no apology for that.
Right.
I love it.
So, did you get a chance to interact with either of them? Like, did you get a chance to kind of catch a vibe from Mark or J. Cole? Like,
I did.
What were they like?
Anytime I'm in the room, I'm gonna try to catch a vibe from whoever's in the room.
As you should.
Mark Zuckerberg was really what you see on Facebook, like, you know, nice, very chill.
He seems kind of standoffish a bit.
He is a little standoffish, but he engaged me. Like, you know what I'm saying? The fact that he knew it was my restaurant, we took a bunch of pictures. He allowed media, you know, to come. I mean, just, you know, so very personal. Like, asked me a couple questions about, you know, the restaurant and Facebook, and then he posted me on his page. So at that point, I said, well, you know, I'm big time. But yeah, and so he was, super cool, cool. And then J. Cole, he just a cool dude. He's laid back. Again, he took pictures. And I remember I brought my daughter to work with me because, kids, she was a teenager at the time. So she was a fan, So, and she didn't fan out. She acted like she had some sense. Thank you, girl. And so
she kept it cool.
He talked to her. He took pictures with her. And, so again, when you get a chance to meet people who, they're not standoffish or like you can't talk to them and things like that. Like, I love that. That's why I say I'm always going to be that person that I'm going to chit chat with people because I know that made me feel good. That, they didn't feel like, well, just because I was in their presence and they may have, been here on a status, you know what I'm saying? They didn't make me feel like they were better. They didn't make me feel like, whatever. I'm human.
Right.
And that's how they made me feel. And that's how I always want to make people feel.
Good. You mentioned your daughter briefly. I wanted to ask you, your relationship with Destiny.
Man.
Is she your why? Is she why you hustle the way you hustle? Is she a part of that?
Let me tell you something.
Talk to us about her.
Listen.
Yeah.
Destiny is 20. She's getting ready to be 24.
Wow.
So she's grown now, but she was my why. I mean, from day one, just like, we got to get it. We got things to do. We got, not only that, I was a single parent since she was 4. A single parent and wouldn't get no child support. As a matter of fact, not got child support. I didn't get, hey, I'm gonna come get her for the weekend. I never got any support. Right. You know what I'm saying? And so I had to get out there and work. I had to go. I had to hustle. I had to make money to make sure my kid was good because remember, I wanted to make good on that promise from that day I was crying in that bedroom saying my kid wouldn't go through this.
Right.
And I can honestly tell you, she ain't never had a day where she went through that. She never missed a meal. She's never, not had something she needed. And thankfully, she wasn't into Jordans and stuff like that. So I had it made, And she was a good kid. So while I'm working, I didn't have to keep going up to the school. And I didn't have to, some of the things and the stories that I hear from other parents, like Destiny made my life easy. And so I tell her she can get just about anything she wants from me, even though she's an adult, she's grown. She made it easy for me in business. She made it easy for me to be able to succeed because she understood, and I did balance well. And that's one of the things that was important as well. I was able to balance. So if she had volleyball games, I was at every game. Because if I wasn't, there was nobody else too.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And so Destiny's one of my best friends. And it's crazy because now we joke about how they say, I ain't one of your little friends. Now she's one of my little friends.
Right.
That's my homegirl and she's an entrepreneur and she's good.
It's a great age to be a parent. When your kids are because you're still a young woman yourself and your kids are mature enough to understand life. So parenting, you don't have to be the toughest version of yourself. You can be a soft mom with her now.
Exactly. Yeah. And then, I'm a grandmother.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I have...
How's your grandbaby?
He's 2 and he's a man. He is a man. And so, it's pretty cool. They live 5 minutes from me, so just close enough. But you still got your own space. I got my own space. Come get them. And, it works. I love this life. I love being able to... Thank you so much. Thank you. So I enjoy it. And so I try to tell everybody, live your life. Create the life you want. Oftentimes we don't do that and then we're mad at everybody else. I don't want to be one of the people that's mad at everybody else. I want to live life. I want to live it more abundantly. I want to have fun. I want to live it out loud. And that's one of the things that I do. So I share my life because I've always been transparent. So I share with you the ugly, so I'm going to share with you the cute, the good, the bright side, because it took something to get here. And so now that I'm here, why would I be quiet?
Right.
I'm going to let you know, no, I'm living a good life, but I have my share of the tough life, I don't want that no more. I don't desire that. Sure. So I'm comfortable where I am now.
So you speak about tough life, the ugly part of life. this is really a two-part question, but what is the toughest lesson that you learned in life, in entrepreneurship and in parenthood?
Ooh, in entrepreneurship and in parenthood, I would say forgiveness. You gotta forgive. And that's in personal life as well. You've got to forgive.
That's one of those words that it's so easy to say, but the action behind it
but that's because when you actually do, you break so much off of you. So as a young girl, I was molested, right? So if I wouldn't have, I've healed. Thank you so much. I've healed, and so if I didn't tell you that, you wouldn't know because I don't wear it on my sleeve, right? But I had to forgive in order to move forward, in order to be able to, number one, trust men, trust people, in order to be okay, in order to fully heal, because oftentimes, you know, you have baggage from some of these things that you don't heal from. It's weighing you down. Like, you know what I'm saying? And so it's like, so regardless of what you've been through, and so since being an entrepreneur, I mentioned to you that I went through a couple divorces. Well, some people can't handle entrepreneurship. You know what I'm saying? And that's no excuse. But what I'm saying is, you know, I had to go through those things. That was just a part. But forgiveness was one of those things that was just kind of like, why would I want to come around you, my customers, my people, and be weighed down, be heavy? You know? No, I want to be light. I want you to know I'm okay because I really am okay. You know, in business, there are people who burn me. There are people who have done things that they shouldn't have. There are people who have said things on social media that they shouldn't have. You know what I'm saying? I have to forgive them for myself. You know what I'm saying? In order for me not to be walking around mad at everybody, angry, hating everybody because one or two people don't like me. You know what I'm saying? So in parenthood, same thing. Because your kids can hurt your feelings too. You know? You know, that's
listen. They don't mind either.
Yeah, you know, that's a whole nother story, but they really
they do
can't.
not mind.
You have to be able to forgive, you know, and if you're going through things,
I like that.
You know,
forgive.
Yeah,
wow.
You have to.
That's
and
powerful.
More importantly, you got to be able to forgive yourself. You have got to.
Because you're going to mess up.
You're going to mess up. I done messed up so many times. I stopped counting years ago, you know, and I'm still going to mess up some more. But I forgive and I have to let it go. And the only way to fully, like, really let it go is to forgive it. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you have to forgive the offense. You have to forgive people who you're never going to get an apology from. Because if you don't, can you imagine every time somebody cuts you and you just peel the scab and you just keep on peeling, you're never going to heal. You know what I'm saying? So let that stuff go. I'm telling you, that's one of the things that I've learned.
I was not expecting that. I was not expecting that, but that's good. That's a word we all can learn from that. It's just some of us are works in progress.
Yes, I get it, and I'm not saying it's always easy. I'm not saying it's always easy. You know, sometimes it takes some time.
You saying the right thing. My therapist says that as well. Like, you got to forgive, but.
You have to.
I'm trying to be better at it.
Okay, well, we're gonna say this day we're gonna make an effort, you know, a conscious effort.
I am absolutely
because I'm telling you, it's important. I believe that with my whole heart.
I believe it. What's something your parents taught you that you still carry with you today?
Oh my goodness, that was a good question. I would say. Let's see, something that my parents taught me that I still carry today is so much. One of the things was like, don't ask people for money, right? So we couldn't ask people for money when we were younger. Like aunties, uncles, you know, my parents felt like that was begging. Even if we ain't had no money, they still felt like, and I don't know if it was a pride thing. I never asked. I don't know if it was a pride thing or whatever. Don't ask people for money. But what that did was, well, then you got to go out there and make it. You know what I'm saying?
Don't never put yourself in a position to have to ask people for money.
I couldn't have said it better. I was going to say something like that, but I couldn't have said it better. So I've been working since I was 13 years old, so I would never have to ask somebody for money. Like, you know what I'm saying? And money ain't everything, and I get it, but I bring that up because Money do make our life a little bit easier.
Sure.
Now, I don't care, what nobody say. I'm not saying money have to be your idol. I'm not saying you should do anything for money, but it's a great tool.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
It's a great tool.
Money have afforded me to be able to start businesses and do some of the things that I enjoy and actually have a peace of mind. Like, you know what I'm saying? And so that's one of those things that's just important to me. But my parents also taught me the value of hard work and seeing the
goes along
return.
with the first one.
Yeah, like, so my parents weren't lazy, and so you get up and you get out there and get it. Like, my dad, he was a man of few words, so he didn't say a whole lot, but I watched his life. You know what I'm saying? And what he showed was a man of character. He showed, you know what I'm saying, value. He was one of those men, he would give you his last. Whether it was kids, whether it was someone on the street that needed a shirt. You know what I'm saying? And so again, those are some of the things that I got, so just being courteous, being kind, being a giver. So I'm a giver, and both of my parents were givers, but they also received so much as well. And I can see it in my own life where I receive a lot. You know what I'm saying? But that's because I've given a lot. I've sown amazing seeds. Like, you know what I'm saying? And according to the Bible, that have to come back to you.
No, it's clear it comes back to you because your phone be on fire with people calling you, telling you about people coming in town and people needing your service. So it's very clear that, but you said that in the beginning that you walk in God's favor, and it's very evident, in hearing some of your stories here. So I think that's dope. What's your proudest childhood memory?
My proudest childhood memory, I would say, now I told you I didn't have the best childhood, but I would say, this one time, it has to do with my mom. My mom got her taxes back.
Okay.
And she did what some black people do.
What's that?
She went out and she bought us all Jordans, all the kids and herself.
Oh, nice.
And although it wasn't it wasn't for me, to be proud, but I was proud. I was proud of my mom. You know what I'm saying? For making a sacrifice, because she could have went and got a TV like most of us do, right? But she said, I want to do something for my kids. And I was proud to be able to go to school the next day and really feel like, you know what I'm saying?
Look at my feet.
You know what I'm saying?
Check my footwork.
Check them J's
Check
out.
my footwork.
That was a big deal in Chicago, right? Because you had to stand in line. It still is apparently, but you had to stand in line and, wait and, try and get all these sizes. She had to buy 5 sizes, And so to then be able to go to school the day after, they came out with them on your feet was like, oh man. Remember, I was always the one that didn't have name brand shoes.
Right.
So now you're talking, that's something so small. The only reason I bring that up is because now I love shoes. And I
That's
know. That's
only how it goes.
Yeah, I know that was because it's one of those psychological things. I wasn't able to get, shoes. So every pair of Jordans, every pair of shoes I see for myself or my grandbaby, I'm getting them. We wearing matching shoes. I sometimes I should have on heels, but you know what? I'm putting on some tennis shoes because it make me feel good, it make me comfortable, and because I can afford them.
And you the boss. Who's gonna tell you to say?
Who's gonna check me, huh? And so I can. And so, but yeah, but I do have some great memories just because my parents were great, and so my parents are no longer with me. They are, they passed away within the 2-year time span of each other.
Okay.
And so it was crazy because my dad, he had a rare throat cancer. And so they gave him 6 months to live. And he lived those 6 months. And it was time for him to go after that,
Wow.
And then 2 short years later, my mom was in a tragic car accident, So we were expecting it with him. With my mom, I'm out catering an event.
That's
and
tough.
I get a phone call and they're like, hey, you somewhere where you can sit down? No, I'm working. I'm getting ready to feed the bride and groom.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Man.
And so, but again, that's just a testament of the perseverance, the things that I've had to overcome, and just the adversity, you know, of some of the things that I've experienced, that's like, now, you know, it's all good. Like, I just handle things how I need to handle. That don't mean I don't grieve. That don't mean I don't go through things. Because I do, you know. But now I know how to properly place those things, you know. If I'm feeling a little down, I know I don't really want to be around people today. You know what I'm saying? Because I never want to be that person that put my stuff on other people, you know. And so I'm quick to be like, nah, I'm gonna stay in the house today because I don't want to come around you and now you sad because I'm sad. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so just those type of things. But I had really good parents. They just struggled a bit, you know. And so one of the things I learned by watching their life was that I don't want this struggle.
Yeah, and that was the beauty in their struggle, that you know, you were able to recognize it and see and create a better version of life for you and your children.
Yeah, so. And so I just wish they could see me now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
They do.
But I know that they do, and
I understand what you mean.
Yeah, and so it's just kind of like, you know, so that's why I push. You know, that's why I press. Like, I always wanted to make my parents proud, and even though they're you know, they're gone, you know, I know that I'm still making them proud, and that makes me feel good.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Who encourages you? I know you said that you didn't have any mentors at a young age. But at this point in life, do you have any mentors? Do you have a circle of people? Like, who encourages you when you're having those off days that we all have?
I have, when I tell you, I have the closest, best friends ever. And I'm not even gonna name them by name because then somebody get mad if I forget somebody.
So let me ask you: are all your best friends? Are all of y'all best friends, or you got best friends in different circles?
I have best friends in different circles.
Okay, gotcha.
But I have a core group of friends where we've been friends for years.
Okay, gotcha.
And when I tell you we have each other's back, I don't care what it is. I don't care if you're going through something because you hit your pinky toe, or if you're going through a divorce. We got each other's back, you know.
Awesome.
And I think that that's important to have people that you can lean on.
Yeah.
Like, you know, every now and then I still hear people say, grown adults, I don't got no friend. I don't do friends. That, you know, friends hurt your friends, you know, do this or that or whatever. Get you some good people around you and watch you level up. Watch, you know, especially I'm talking about some good people. If you have good people around you or in your circle, how can you lose? Like, you know what I'm saying? They're not gonna let you. Like, my friends not gonna let me fall. Like, now without dragging me.
Right.
Hey, come on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Somebody gonna grab me by the coattail. Let's go, you know? And again, it's that thing of, if I'm weak at something, I wanna be able to call one of my friends, hey, this is what I'm thinking, you know? I want to be able to call my friend that's a lawyer because I have this issue. I want to be able to call my girlfriend that's a realtor, and you know, she tell me, hey, these are what properties we have because we're trying to invest. You know, I want to be able to call my friend that's an entrepreneur and say, hey, I'm having this challenge, you know, with a labor law. What do you think about this? You know what I'm saying?
Everybody in the friend circle got to bring value.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm at a point now, I can't carry dead weight. Like, I don't deserve that. You know what I'm saying? Or at least you have to be trying.
Right.
You know, because everybody don't desire. I had to learn this because I know I can be overly ambitious. Everybody don't have a desire to be a millionaire. Everybody don't have a desire to be a six-figure earner. Everybody don't. But if you're in my close circle, I need you to still bring some type of value. Okay, maybe you don't make that much money, and maybe you don't do this. Can you pray?
Right.
Can you get a prayer through to God on my behalf when I'm feeling down? You know what I'm saying? You know, can you look out for me and make sure when you're in rooms and you hear somebody say something crazy about me, can you check them and say, hey, that's not my girl. You know what I'm saying? Now, she don't operate like that. That's not even her character. You know, those things are just as important. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? And so again, you know, as long as you're bringing some type of value, then, you know, we can be cool. I don't have a no new friends law, you know. Now I got to be able to trust you because that's important to me. If I can't trust you, I don't need you. That's in friendship, that's in relationship, that's in business. We got to be able to trust one another, you know. Too many shiesty people, too many scammers, too many silly folks. I don't need it, you know. I want good people who's trying to live better and trying to, you know, do something with their life.
And it's draining to have people around you that are not aligned with what you're trying to do. You know, you spoke about carrying dead weight. Like that it's very draining because, like you said, everybody don't want to go where you want to go.
You will wear yourself out.
Listen, that is a fact. I wanted to ask you about Let Me Cater to You. That is more of the catering aspect of what you do, correct?
Correct.
Which style do you prefer? Do you prefer the catering side or do you prefer the restaurant side of what you do?
I prefer the catering side.
Is it because you get to be right there with the people?
I get to be right there with the people, but for a short time. So with catering, couple hours, you can kiki, you can hide, you can hug on people, you can kiss the babies, you can shake hands, and after that, you're done. With restaurant, it's all day. It's all day, half the night, you know. So I absolutely love the catering aspect. And then you already know automatically how many guests there is, you know. So if you tell me, well, I want you to cater my wedding and it's 150 guests, no guesswork for me. I know what I need to prepare. I know exactly what I need to do. I know what time I can be back in my bed. You know?
You got it down to a science.
Restaurant, you know, today it can be busy. Tomorrow it can be like, where everybody at? Everybody on vacation? Everybody at Myrtle Beach? Where they at? You know, I still got the staff I gotta pay. Y'all come eat. You know what I'm saying? So restaurant, you know, can be hard, you know.
I'm sure.
And I tell anybody, if I make it look easy, I'm sorry. It's hard. And so oftentimes people feel like, well, because they can cook, start a business. You need a restaurant. Your family will be the ones gas you up, and then they won't come eat, or they'll want to come eat for free. That's another conversation for another day. You know.
Listen, family be the worst sometimes. Man.
You know. And so don't let people gas you up talking about, you know, open a restaurant and this, that, and the other before it's your time, because restaurants have a high failure rate, and it's obvious the reasons why. You know what I'm saying? And so it's just kind of like, it's hard. I tell anybody, food service is hard work. You know, if I could retire in the next couple of years, I will. So I got to start playing some numbers, hit the lottery. I just don't want to do a get rich quick scheme because I ain't got time for that. But I gotta figure something out because I gotta retire in the next couple of years. But so I absolutely love it. But you know, they both have their pros and cons, just like with anything. So I take the good with the bad and the bad with the good, and together it's just a marriage made in heaven.
Nice. I see this week you've been doing a cooking class for the young people.
Yeah, listen.
Talk to us about that. Where did that idea come from?
I had this idea about 1.5 years ago.
Okay.
I said, I want to get like some of the young people involved. I want to get the kids. I want to teach them how to cook. You know, I feel like that's been like a lost art. You know, you have some people that can cook, but a whole lot of people can't cook these days, you know? And so my thing is, a whole
lot of people can't cook.
A whole lot, you know? And so, you know, if you start them out young, maybe it'll pique their interest. Like, you know, maybe they'll see that. So when I was young, I didn't know that you can become a chef. I just knew I liked cooking. I didn't know that you can make a whole lot of money cooking.
That is true.
I didn't know that, you know, there were these people that somebody had to cook for the celebrities. Somebody had to cook for people getting paid, you know? And I'll never forget, I was about 18, 19. I went to my primary care physician, and she said, so what are you planning on doing, like, you know, basically for the rest of your life? Now, I'm in the military. She know I'm a cook. I said, well, I just want to cook. She said, you want to cook for the rest of your life? Like, with such a negative, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, if I was a different person, that could have broke me, like, yeah, I better do something else. I knew what I was called to do. So I'm like, no, yeah, I do want to do this. And every so often I think about her because I'm like, if she could see me now, you know what I'm saying? But all she had to go off was her experience. You know, so maybe she never met a chef. Maybe she never met a female chef.
Right.
Maybe she had never met a celebrity chef.
And that's
maybe,
real.
You know,
people will put limits on you because of their own experience.
Their limited experience. So although she's a doctor, I remember one year when I was like, man, I made a whole lot of money. I was like, I made more than that doctor. You know what I'm saying? So these are my thought processes, right? This is how I'm thinking. Like, because you tried to put me down, and I'm like, you know what I'm saying? So whatever it is that you're doing, as long as you feel fulfilled, then that's okay, you know? And so, anyway, taking it back to what you were asking, because I know I like to talk. I do, and I'm enjoying myself. I feel like I'm on my own couch right now. You know?
Good. That's the intention behind it.
I almost took my shoe off. I said, don't do it.
Listen, make yourself
comfortable. But yeah, with the catering and with food service, period. I was talking about how, the percentage of failure and things like that. But when you're called to it, none of that can stop you. Like, none of that can stop you. And so I'm grateful.
I think I like what you said about initially with the children. You wanted to show them that being a chef is possible and being successful. I think that's so true, because when I think back to when I was in school, which is a long time ago,
couple of years.
I never heard anyone talk about trades, like being a chef, being a plumber, being an electrician, barber. I never heard people talk about it. It was just almost like military and college, I felt like were my only options because that's all I ever heard. So I just think it's beautiful that you're showing kids like, yo, if you enjoy cooking, you can do it for a living.
Absolutely. And that was my total motivation for, going into the cooking classes. It was really like, you can do it. And I want to show you that someone that looked like you can do it. Someone that, looked like your mom, your auntie, like, you know what I'm saying? We can go out here and we can do these things. And when I tell you, I felt so fulfilled this week, like, awesome. With those kids. Yeah. And they were good too. They followed instructions well. I'm not going to say better than the adults, but they were real close, real close.
They were locked in.
Locked in, like they wanted to learn, And then yesterday I had teenagers, and I'm teaching them knife cuts and how to properly hold a knife, and things that they just don't learn. Like, unless you take a class at school, you don't know how to properly hold a knife, because most of the time the adults don't really know. Let's be honest. We're still cutting with our finger on top of the blade, just trying to, we're nicking ourselves and cutting stuff, and you know what I'm saying. And so my thing is to be able to show them how to make a homemade sauce, to be able to show them how to slice and how to dice, and to be able to show them how to turn heavy whipping cream into whipped topping, like right before their eyes. Like, you know what I'm saying? I felt like that was so cool, and those kids had a good time. So I'm going to keep it going. I'm going to keep it going.
Yeah,
I'm doing some summer classes.
Okay.
The 2 that I already put up, they've sold out. So I'm getting ready to open 2 more up for the summer.
You going to do some adult classes too?
I am. So I am going to do some adult classes. I'm going to start.
I need to learn the basics.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, we're going to have a class just for you. And then the couples done asked me, so I'm going to do a couples class.
See, this turned into something totally different.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it's hitting everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. In a good way.
That's the beauty. Exactly. Yeah. That's the beauty of food service, right? That's the beauty of cooking. Everybody got to eat. So even if you don't necessarily like cooking, you still might want to go just for the fun of it. You might want to learn how to make a good date night type of thing, just in case. You know what I'm saying? You might want to learn how to make something, quick and easy for yourself.
Exactly.
Exactly. Sometimes you don't want to go out and eat at Uptown's Chicken and Waffles. Sometimes, sometimes you want to just stay home and cook a little meal or whatever. So whatever I can do to be able to give back, like, number one, that's going to make me feel good, because, people like, oh yeah, I learned this little technique, from Chef Judy or whatever. So that's still my little part of, like carrying Chef Judy into your home, right? And so that's just kind of where I'm going next. I just want to do cooking classes, and I want to do all the things that I enjoy that's still fun to me. Yeah. I'm getting older, so I'm not catering as much, because I don't want to have to haul stairs and jump on and off the truck, and I don't want to have to do that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I'm leaving that for the younger folks to be able to do. You know, I did it a lot when I was young. You know, I'm talking, when I say young, that's 20s, 30s, and even early 40s. And so now I'm like, you know, okay, I'm good. I don't have to work as much, but I've paid my dues.
Right.
You know, I looked at a Facebook post earlier this week where I said something about working 60 days straight. I'm like, you got to be crazy. But I was that kind of crazy, but it paid off.
When you in the grind, you don't think about the days.
Right, you're just
work.
thinking like, you know what I'm saying, let's get this work done. Yeah. Well, while I was making money, that means I wasn't spending money. Because if you working, you don't have time to be buying up stuff and shopping and doing all the things.
Low.
So now, I'm able to take a trip if I want to. I'm able to do things that make me feel good. I'm able to do things that bring me peace, things that bring me joy. I love it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Chef, we appreciate you coming by. I just want you to know that I think, and I'm sure a large portion of the community loves you. They love what you've done in the community. Thank you for the classes. Thank you for the businesses that you've started, the employees that you've hired in our community. You know, I think you are one of the bright and shining stars of Fayetteville. I'm glad that things worked out where you ended up. I'm glad your sister was stationed here that brought you here.
Yeah.
But we just thank you. We love you here in Fayetteville. We love you here at Suited to Serve, and we appreciate you coming by.
Thank you. It's been such a pleasure.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, we thank y'all for tuning in to another episode of the Suited to Serve podcast. Stay tuned for more. Please like and subscribe.